Hello everyone, this is Rachel Kirkland here, the Modern Shaman, and thanks for being with me for another video YouTube question and answer time. Before I dive into the question of this week, I'll just say that if you're new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe, hit the like button, comment, let me know kind of how you feel and your take on things, as well as hitting that bell notification to get reminders anytime I put up a new video, which is every week now. Also, if you have a question that you would like me to answer on here that you feel like other people could benefit from your questioning and kind of growing, feel free to send that in via my website, and that's themodernshaman.net. Also, if you're interested in any sort of psychic development classes or one-on-one sessions, I would love to meet with you. This is what I do full-time, so feel free to reach out. Again, the website is themodernshaman.net. Okay, so here's the question for today, and it was a little long, so I had to make it more succinct. I apologize if I cut little bits out of your question, but sometimes we have a story to tell, and this was a long story, and I hear you there. But I tried to use kind of bits of it that I felt like people could really benefit from in terms of your question. Okay, I already got choked up. So she says, "Hi Rachel, I would like your guidance. I had an awakening in 2015, and over the past few years, it's been frustrating and exhausting." Don't we all know how that goes, right? When your awakening is like a freaking Mack truck in the face. You're like, okay, I'm awake and I cannot go back to sleep. And nothing looks the same, life ain't the same, relationships aren't the same, work isn't the same. Everything shifts. Been there, mama. I know how you feel. I think a lot of people on this channel probably know how you feel. Okay, so she says, "I now have synchronicities, I see holograms with images, and I feel spirit all of the time. However, I also get a lot of migraines, anxiety, and hormonal imbalance with tension that's extreme in my head and my eyes. It may sound crazy, but I feel at times like there's a presence in my body, or they use pain areas of my body to get their point across. I call on my guides for help, but they don't seem to come through. Angels will help for a bit, and then it's back to normal again. I've tried spiritual boundaries and saging, but it doesn't seem to get too much better. Can you please give me some advice?" Okay, so there's a lot going on with you. Yes. And I can definitely resonate and relate to your story. I think it's great that you sent in your question, because I'm going to go through a few different things, because all of what you're explaining, there's various levels to this that I feel like I want to touch on. Where do I want to start first? Okay. I'm just asking Spirit really quick where they want to go first. So first, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, okay? Number one, the first thing I want to talk about is clearing, all right? As you are growing spiritually, you're becoming more aware of the non-physical world. One of the first things that comes online oftentimes is the realization of your interaction with spirit, be it energy or entities or attachments, anything like that energetically that's going on. A lot of times you become more sensitive and aware of it. So the first thing that I would suggest in terms of just advice would be to do a clearing, okay? A good old-fashioned clearing of you, a detox of you, as well as your environment. Now, you did share that you were saging, so that's a positive. Now, when it comes to clearing you, if you've ever heard about attachments or entities or extractions, a lot of shamans do this, energy workers do this, healers do it. So I'm going to put your question down. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should hold it so I stay on topic and don't get too far off topic. But this is an important thing to do, and not to freak you out about it. A lot of people, when they hear that, like, oh, you have an attachment, or let me check for entities, it's like, oh, that sounds all freaky, and they start, you know, I think because Hollywood has really personified a lot of this negative, evil images, and because sometimes they personify themselves like that to create a kind of induce fear, so that we don't kick them out or we don't have a sense of boundary for them. However, it's just like a good, I tell my clients this all the time, it's like a good old-fashioned detox, all right? Or a good bath. And we need to have them energetically regularly, all right? Just like good hygiene in our physical body, you need good hygiene with your spiritual body. And a lot of us have never done this. It's like we've been walking around never taking a bath from our auric field, or never cleansing or detoxing any sort of energetic gunk or issues or any sort of energy that we've been carrying around with us for a long time. So if you take away the stigma of this being something horrible, we don't think about taking a bath and like, oh my God, unless you're a child. My kids sometimes view it this way. But we don't view it with a stigma. We're just like, yeah, it's time to get clean. Same things when we do a detox or some sort of regulated fasting. It feels so good to cleanse the system inside out. And so the same thing needs to be done with the good sense of clearing energetically any sort of attachments. And that also means energy. Sometimes it's not personified and turned into an entity. It's just energetic gunk, like a cloud or just like fat that the system needs to slough off, fears that you've been carrying around, negativity, just kind of, it also electromagnetic, sometimes it's like frequencies and just toxins within your energetic field. Because our chakras are electromagnetic centers, there is an electrical component to it that sometimes just gets little filaments of energy that are not benefiting us or that are making us slow and sluggish and lethargic in all sorts of ways. So the first thing that I would suggest when you ask for my advice is to do a sense of clearing. Like I said, there's a lot of energy workers or shamans that are familiar with doing any sort of entity removal, extractions, or energetic clearing. All right? If you, and you mentioned in particular feeling like sometimes spirits are animating your body or these sorts of things, so you can look at in particular entity removal, and that's when it has a more personified form. These are more intelligent energies. Just like we talk about like diseases, some of them are more intelligent than others, meaning like sometimes cancer cells are highly advanced cellular, I don't even know. I feel like I need more science background to explain it. But bacteria that have a higher level of intelligence to them, they grow faster, they shift within the body faster. There are entities on the other side that are in that realm as well that have a little bit more intelligence to them, and that's what I would call entity versus just an attachment, which is sometimes just kind of like noise from the everyday living and being in environments that may be dense and dark and heavy, or having any sort of fear that more so manifests like clouds or like little filaments. Sometimes when I see them in my internal vision, they're not personified into any sort of personality, but I can still see them there. So those are two different types of clearings. One is just a little bit more precise and involving, you know, more clairaudience, talking to the energy, giving it a place to go. Any light worker that's familiar with doing this type of work knows how to do it. So I would highly suggest step one is a good clearing, okay? And that includes your space with the saging. I would clear the physical form and I would clear your physical space, okay? With saging or smudging, with crystals, with a sense of utilizing energy from the elementals to protect and keep your space sacred. Then, second thing that you talk about is having a sense of trying to create boundaries, psychic boundaries. Now, I'm huge on this, and if you've seen my video on creating boundaries for spirit, I did that a couple years back, but this is part of my psychic development curriculum. It's like Psychic Development 101. You've got to learn how to have psychic boundaries, all right? You just do, and especially when you have an awakening and you start becoming aware of the non-physical world, if you don't have any sort of rules or regulations, then it's like trying to have a conversation, you know, with 5 different people at the same time. You've got to regulate it. You got to say, hey, talk to me one at a time, slow down. You've got to have a sense of interaction that gives guidelines, right? This is what teachers do. This is what we have to do with our children. if I didn't give my kids boundaries, they'd be running around all over the house. They'd be eating anytime they want to eat. They'd be taking and borrowing money and not, just be doing whatever the heck they want to do. And a lot of us work like this with the spiritual world. We have no sense of boundaries, and we act like we're a victim to it all the time. Like, oh my gosh, Spirit's doing this and Spirit's doing that. And then I say to my clients, well, have you said stop doing that? Have you said, I'm going to set a boundary for this? This is not acceptable in my own spiritual interaction with you. This is not, you know what I mean? Have you set a boundary? Have you said no? And we do the same thing with kids, right? So there's the setting of boundaries. And the way that you do that is you have to be in alignment with what you're speaking. I always, when we do this in my psychic development class, level 1, we take a posture. So you take a physical stance that has a sense of alignment to it, meaning I'm standing tall. I'm standing typically with my feet shoulder width apart. It's a strong sense of personal empowerment stance. So I have a physical posture that's mimicking the energy that I'm imbuing in my words. And then I'm saying them out loud to add a vibrational resonance of power to what I'm saying. And I always tell people, when you create these boundaries or these rules and regulations for spirit, say it until you know that you mean it, all right? Just like kids, or if you're teaching a class of kindergartners, and sometimes spirits can be like that, like just little pests. If you're dealing with energies like that, sometimes you have to repeat yourself, or you have to say it until you mean it, okay? And they'll know the difference, right? It's just like kids when you're like, okay, stop, and they're still doing it. Because you're in this energy of like, all right, this is annoying, stop it, But you're not like, absolutely not. You stop it, and I mean what I say. When you get in that mama tone or that alpha dog tone, just like in dog training too, energies know when you're in alignment with what you're saying. You mean it. So you have to be in that space, and sometimes it takes practice if you're not used to doing that with the non-physical realm. This is something I teach my children too when they're afraid at night or they feel energies present in a room or whatever it may be. If I'm saying you need, fear, you need to leave, then I tell them, okay, maybe you need to stomp a few times. You need to get in a posture where you mean what you say and you feel it. This is why sometimes we have this sense of pounding on the chest, and you've seen the ancients do this. There's a physical posture that's mimicked in a sense of strength. I mean what I say, and I'm holding my sense of boundary. If you haven't practiced that, you'll need to practice it. You'll need to get into an embodiment that feels like there's a strong sense of personal sovereignty, that you're meaning what you say. Okay, so that's step 2. Number 1 is clearing. Step 2 is a sense of boundaries, setting those boundaries for spirit. Ways that you know that they interact with you, that you feel like you either don't want them to interact with you, or you need a little bit more flow to it. Okay, like I said, maybe talk to me one at a time, or slow down when you're giving me a message, or ask permission first, whether when you want to enter my dreams or you need to introduce yourself, whatever the boundaries may be for you. Spirit interacts in different ways. Now, you mentioned your physical body and pains and things like this, and this would be step 3 of what I would suggest to you in terms of advice. And that is, if you're clairsentient, which it sounds like you are, you're receiving messages from non-physical through your physical body. Okay, a lot of empaths are clairsentient. This is a psychic sense of picking up on energy and translating it through the physical body. Tingles, chill bumps. Sometimes it can manifest like migraines, headaches, pressure from the third eye or the inner ear, especially if you're clairaudient, and it sounds like you are as well, because you're doing automatic writing. So you're getting telepathic information translated. That's a lot of inner ear work within the higher pitch and frequencies of the ears. So a lot of times it does this, and it used to do this to me too if I wasn't channeling enough, or I didn't have a sense of openness and clearing within my inner ear, or when it just comes in strong, like if there's a huge upgrade in terms of the cosmic energy on the globe, a lot of times then I'll get a lot of pressure, or I'll get the headaches, and you need kind of go-to grounding, what I would say, or balancing energetic practices that help you to dissipate that energy. Now, I've shared on many videos, and if you've watched mine before, which you said you did, ways that are my go-to grounding, and these are for my sense of energy that I'm receiving within the body. So when those things happen, migraines, pressure, that tension within the body, my go-to grounding is that I literally put those parts of my body on the earth. and try to essentially send that energy into Mother Earth, ask her to absorb it for me, okay? Because I can feel it like pounding. When I put my third eye on the earth, on the ground, and I lay down like a crazy person in my backyard with my head on the floor. But I can literally feel it drain right out of my body and into the ground. Same with my ear. I'll lay there until the energy essentially dissipates. It shifts its frequency to a more absorbed, balanced frequency with the Schumann resonance or the harmonics of the earth. And she has a very nurturing, grounding energy. So when the upgrades are coming in like that, those are my go-tos. Sometimes, and I've showed this before, and we use these in psychic development classes also, I may have certain stones that are my go-tos that I'll put on there that are absorber stones, or just a bag of dirt. Things that I know for me move me straight into a sense of absorbing, grounding energy, especially when you're pulling in these high levels of energetic resonance. And it sounds like you are. Since your awakening, you've been downloading, or essentially gaining a lot of information from the non-physical realm. A lot of those are coming in through the pituitary, the pineal, the inner ear, all of those higher level chakra systems. So you're going to need to balance them out with a lot of grounding. It is what it is, especially when it's coming in a high magnitude. And if you're clairsentient, meaning you're noticing it now. Those psychic senses are turned on now, and you are actively being aware of it. There are times too when I have to wear hats, or kind of keep myself covered in almost like an antenna, like everything feels very sensitive here. So just pay attention and have a sense of your go-to grounding resources. Those are my 3 bits of advice for you. And you have homework now, right? So the first thing would be a sense of clearing, detoxing. Second thing would be the boundaries, putting those up, having a sense of stance to them, and sometimes you'll have to come back to them, just like kids. You tell them to do something, they know it's a rule of your household that you don't do such and such, but sometimes you still got to remind them. Sometimes they still push the boundaries and are right up on you, and you're like, absolutely not. This is not, you know what I mean? You still have to hold them. And then sometimes there's new boundaries that come up, meaning you didn't used to see holograms, and then all of a sudden you're seeing these. And when these kind of things started happening with me, I had to get really specific with spirit. And one of my guidelines in the beginning was, if I'm going to see some sort of imagery, if you're going to show me internal visions and light up my clairvoyance when I'm in the middle of a conversation, you need to do it right behind that person's head. Because I started to look like a crazy person, like all around like this. And it's real. It's real. It really is. I mean, I have had clients and people that have taken the psychic development classes say, you know, you've literally saved me from, thinking that I was going crazy. So getting boundaries and having a sense of clarity with that is huge. The same with how to minimize and mitigate the energetic impact when things are coming on strongly through your clairsentience. Like I said, grounding. I mean, as simple as it sounds, like laying on the ground and harmonizing with the Schumann resonance of the earth, its own electromagnetic field, its own chakra, its own heart system. It's incredibly easy to do and effective. So I love you guys. I hope that's helpful to you.